Hello, this is Kendo. I'm doing a tutorial on rendezvousing and docking with another ship in orbit. I have another copy of this ship. It's up at about 125 kilometers. So I'm going to fly up and dock with it. So it's a pretty stable ship. It's all stock parts. I do have some mods installed, as you can see, but they're not actually using any of those on the ship. You use the alarm clock at one point, but that's just help speed things up. Now here I'm setting the target and checking how high it was for sure, just to make sure it wasn't wrong. And now I'm just going to fly up to 9,000 before I start my gravity turn. For those who don't know, a gravity turn helps increase your fuel efficiency as you fly. If you just fly straight up and then fly at the horizon, you will get into orbit eventually, but it's not the most fuel efficient way to do it. It's best to start turning over after about 10,000, and then you'll start to get your orbit of the planet helping you along with other things. So, fly. So shortly here I'm going to start my gravity turn. I'm turning over along the 90-degree axis. This is the way to go if you want to be going counterclockwise around your target. If you want to be going clockwise for some reason, you would just go over to the other side. Typically when you're first starting out gravity turns, what you can do is you can just go down to the 45 degrees, which is along here. Otherwise, if you're more practiced and once you start getting used to your launches, you can start slowly moving like I've been doing. So if you notice as I'm getting higher and higher, I'm moving more and more over. Typically, like a launch profile has more turn at the beginning and then less at the end. So just cutting off my boosters, finishing out the main tanks here. This engine uses slightly less fuel because it's the gimbaled engine. And now I am just burning to finish orbiting. So I'm going to get my apoapse up to my height of my target ship. And I'm going to circularize from there. Currently the ship is behind me, so I'll need to adjust to make sure that's right. I also need to check the inclination relative to the other ship, so I look at the ascending or descending node, and then if you'll notice, I'm moving just slightly higher above the 90 on the nav ball to adjust that while I'm flying and getting into orbit. So now that I actually have my apoapse above where my target is, I'm going to add a maneuver node at the first intersection and just adjust to get my orbit circularized. I'm not too concerned about the rendezvous markers at this point. I'm just trying to get a stable orbit to work from there. I am trying to pay attention a little bit just to make sure that I'm not widening the distance between the targets, but I just want to make sure that I have an orbit and won't go crashing back down to Kerbin. So I'm going to align myself for my burn. Looks like I got about 50 seconds left, but the burn's only 23, so you want to start burning at like 13 seconds. Just because it takes your engines a little bit to get up to full speed. Time warp a little bit to get there quicker, and then start my burn. Now, I've done a little bit of an adjustment because I overshot the target height, so I'm dropping down my apoapse a little bit here as I do the burn. Right out of fuel in my last orbit stage, so now I'm just using the orbiting fuel. This setup actually has plenty of fuel for docking. Just gonna finish up the burn here real quick. Make sure my periapse is above 70,000. So now I have a stable orbit. My periapse is above 70, and I need to start looking at where they're intersecting. So I've got two intersect points, one in front of me and one behind me after I'm in the loop. So I'm going to target the one and put a node right above in front of me, and then I'm going to adjust to get myself a little ahead. Now, because my target is behind me, I have to make my orbit larger than the target orbit in order to allow it to catch up, because the closer you are to the planet, the faster you move. So if your orbit is smaller than the other orbit, you'll go faster. If your orbit is larger than the other orbit, you'll go slower. So because it's behind me, I need to make my orbit larger, which is what I'm doing right now. So you can see my orbit is larger, and I'm going to add another maneuver node at the next intersection. And then this is the new feature they added recently to increase the number of rotations. So this is saying, okay, I'm going to fly past this marker once, and then I'm going to come back and be closer, and now I'm going to adjust it a little bit more now that I've made it one orbit around the planet. So that means that I got an hour. So I'm going to set Kerbal alarm clock just to stop my time warp so I don't miss the burn. It allows me to warp faster without having to do it. So I'm coming up on orbits, but because I hit the orbit increase once, I have to go around once before, and your burn time is adjusted, and the node in T seconds down by your nav ball show that. I'm going to let Kerbal alarm clock stop me here as I come into the orbit. It's set for a minute out. That allows you to adjust a little bit afterwards, just to make sure you're pointed in the right direction and everything after you're warping. I'm going to warp in, just get a little quicker. Now, it looks like I have an intersection there, but that's for the burn. So I'm going to do my burn here real quick, and then I'll have to orbit one more time to get the actual intersection, because the marker that is intersecting means that it's after the first intersection, so it's obviously not yet. The two different colors, note that one is your current or your next intersection, and then the one is the following intersection after that, to give you an idea of where you'll end up after your changes. And if you see, they just switched there before I went off the screen. So now I've set to target mode on my speed indicator, and that also adjusts my prograde and retrograde markers, so that I need to burn retrograde relative to my target. So what this will do is, it doesn't deal with my orbit, it deals with my speed versus my target. So this will allow me to slow down and match speeds with the target, so that once I'm close, I'm not actually going faster or slower. Now, if you notice, I'm watching the intersection just to make sure that my separation is going to be slow when I have my target matched. So I'm just narrowing it down. Looks like I got 0.4 separation, so that'll be pretty close. So now I'm just going to warp a little bit to get closer, and I'm going to point myself relative to the target. The circular indicator there shows that that's where my target is. Now if you're dealing with that and you want to move your prograde marker towards the target, you burn on the opposite side, and if you want to move it away, you burn near it. And then I'm going to time warp in here. Now the retrograde markers are first. If you notice, I'm burning on the opposite side of the marker from where my retrograde target is, so that will push it towards that marker. Usually I forget about them, so you just kind of got to do it once, see, okay, that's what it was, and then you can adjust from there. Just don't burn full off and have it go completely the wrong way. Just kind of start a branch just a little bit, adjust it a little bit as you go. And so now you just got to adjust and warp and adjust and warp. So I'm going to warp until I'm a little closer, and I'm going to kill my velocity again, then I'm going to warp a little closer and just readjust those markers that they're lined up, and that'll draw me closer and closer to the target. All I'm doing is looking with the nav ball and just checking the distance with the viewport. That's all you have to do at this point. From here on out, once you get practiced, you could do it entirely with the nav ball. I still, even after a long time, use the viewport just to make sure that everything looks like it's aligned right. So I've killed my velocity relative to target. Now I'm going to burn towards the target just to get a little closer. And if you notice, I'm not dealing with very high speeds here. All this is under a meter per second. I'm just trying to get everything lined up, and then I time warp, and a meter per second takes forever, but when you're time warping, it goes really quickly. So you don't have to be doing high speed maneuvers and relative to your target. You can actually be going pretty slowly and still get the same effect with time warp. So now I'm 11 meters away. I'm going to line up relative to the target so that I can point in the right direction. So I'm going to set where I'm controlling from, and I'm going to set my target. You just right click on the docking port, consider the target. Now I've set these so that one is pointed south and one is pointed north. This is the easiest way to align your two ships. That way you just kind of point in the opposite way based on where the other thing is targeted. Half the time I get it wrong and have to just flip around, and you just kind of get used to it. Then you go into chase mode with the camera, which allows you to have your RCS pointed in the right direction, so that when you press right, you'll go right, or press L, you'll go right, and press J, you'll go left for the translation controls. And then H and N are forward and backwards. So I'm just making sure that I'm not interrupted. They're gonna run into my target, so I need to move so it's a little gap. Then I'll adjust my position and then move in to dock. Now these are just some practice ships that I've made, so they're pretty easy to maneuver. They've got torque wheels, so they spin really well, and you just kind of gotta adjust them and line everything up. So I have plenty of RCS for practice. You find as you get better and better, you'll use less and less, but I ran out of RCS several times when I was first learning to dock, so it's gonna happen. Just adjust your ship or try and get whatever to get your RCS a little better. Now I've used caps lock to go into fine control mode, which you can see down on the staging icon. It's in the lower left. They changed over to the blue. That will just gives you a little precise movements instead of having full power RCS the moment you hit it. And so then you just get close and let the magnets do their trick. turn off SAS if you're getting some wobbling as it's trying to align. Your SAS will try and hold your position and will actually mess up the actual docking magnets. So just turn it off, turn off RCS. They'll settle, and then you can turn them back on, or turn back on your SAS for your station. And that is how you dock. So if you notice, plenty of fuel left in these ships, you know, I mean, that way if using something similar, you'll have some spare fuel to burn in case you need to get to your target sooner. Still plenty of our monopropellant. Now I'm just going to run and do a second docking attempt here, so I'm going to transfer all the stuff into one of the crafts so that I have one that's fully fueled in case my other gets stranded and I can't get back. I'm going to undock. I'm just going to fly a couple hundred meters away and come back in for another docking just to show you again. All the way from the target, do a little burn. Distance. Change it up so they just fly in one direction, I have to fly the same direction back. Don't want to make it too easy. So I'll let myself get a little further away here before I head back in. I'm going to start killing my velocity to my target, so I'm no longer drifting away. And then I'm going to start moving back towards the target. If you see my prograde marker lined back up. And I was on the wrong side, and it pulled towards my cursor instead of towards the target. So I moved the other side, and there we go. So now that I've got it so that I'm flying towards where I'm ship is, I'm going to time warp in a little closer. If you notice, it starts to get way off as I get past my target because the target's position moves. So I'm just going to switch over to retrograde and kill my velocity. And I burned on the wrong side again. So just burn, move that way. Get those markers lined up. Kill all my velocity. Now if you notice, setting control points. So now that I've got it set to control, I'm going to move in towards the target. I'm just using RCS at this point. Anything under like 100 meters you can use RCS. Just make sure if you have a powerful rocket that has a high thrust to weight ratio, you don't use your engines and just fly past your target really quickly. So going back into chase mode here so that my RCS is aligned correctly. Start moving to the side. Now this whole time I'm on fine control mode. If you just tap it, you'll just get a nice little boost. If you hold it, you'll get back up to pretty much full power for RCS and get some decent movement. It just allows you to do a little precise maneuvering. So now if you notice, I'm off target, but I'm drifting towards it. So my marker is a little off from the target, but that means I'm going to fly a little bit past. So then, now that I'm close, real quickly I just push to the one side. You might want to slow down your speed a little bit and then you'll dock. So, this is showing that there's still plenty of fuel if you want to keep going, or if had some spares to get your orbit correctly. A lot of the fuel is just going to be used up in rendezvous, and just monopropellant once you're actually docking. And that's how you dock. Then Canada, have nice flying.